There's something about African mythology that refuses to sit quietly in the corner of world history. It carries a depth that isn't just spiritual or symbolic. It challenges the way we understand reality itself. And if you're watching on the Time Travel YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe right now, because this is the kind of content most people will never stumble on unless they know where to look. What you're about to hear is a 1-minute hook, but not the empty kind. This is the doorway into a set of stories and ancient frameworks that many historians and survivalist thinkers overlook. African mythology doesn't just entertain, it preserves information, sometimes scientific, sometimes cosmological, sometimes outright unnerving, that forces us to reconsider whether ancient cultures knew more about time, consciousness, and dimensional structure than they're usually credited for. Too many treat these traditions as folklore. But if you take them seriously, and you match them with what we study today in physics, anthropology, and even land-based survival knowledge, they become maps, not metaphors. You'll see what I mean in a moment. Most discussions on time travel start with Einstein or speculative fiction. But one of the first things serious historians notice is that African cosmologies often describe time in ways that closely resemble modern theories long before physics tried to formalize them. This isn't romanticism, it's an observation shared by ethnographers, astronomers, and cultural researchers. African cultures frequently describe time not as a line, but as a layered environment, a structure you move through, impact, and sometimes revisit under certain conditions. That's why, honestly, many stories aren't really myths in the European sense. They're knowledge systems. The Ashanti Golden Stool offers a clear example of this. The stool isn't just a royal symbol, it holds the essence of past, present and future generations simultaneously. The idea that future souls already exist pushes us straight into non-linear time. It's effectively the block universe model expressed through cultural memory. When you're studying African history, one practical application is learning how societies perceived continuity. The Ashanti didn't separate ancestry from futurity. A historian or survivalist trying to understand lineage continuity, social cohesion, or how time affects identity can actually apply this by mapping decision-making across generations, not within a single lifetime. When a culture operates with a non-linear view of time, their actions make far more sense. The Dogon of Mali deepen the conversation even more. They famously held accurate information about Sirius B, a star invisible without modern telescopes. But the real part that relates to time travel is their description of paths of the universe used by non-human visitors. These weren't defined as physical roads, but spiraling routes outside normal perception. Today, spiraling pathways match precisely with modern theories of wormholes, space-time curvature, and rotational symmetry in cosmic structures. If you're a researcher or explorer, understanding Dogon cosmology helps sharpen your ability to decode symbolic systems that might describe real physical phenomena in non-Western vocabulary. The practical step here is straightforward. Whenever you study an old cosmological system, don't immediately translate its meaning into your own scientific language. Compare the structure first. Many researchers miss the data because they dismiss the form. Zulu oral history contains references to beings who walk backwards into yesterday. These guardians weren't ghosts, they were individuals who corrected historical disturbances. In other words, the culture preserved a concept of temporal interference and restoration. This actually aligns with what historians encounter in traditions across East and Central Africa, where time is, well, something you can step into rather than something that passes over you. For practical use, this is invaluable when analyzing timelines of oral history. If a tradition doesn't follow a straight chronological order, it isn't because it's inaccurate. It's because the structure of time in that culture doesn't prioritize linear flow. Any historian mapping a timeline must work according to the culture's time logic, not impose their own. The Yoruba take this further. Their conception of destiny is built on branching choices, parallel outcomes, and repeating cycles. Orunmila, the Orisha of wisdom, is said to understand all possible futures because time is accessible as a set of paths. This, interestingly, parallels modern multiverse theory and decision-based branching. But even outside physics, Yoruba time logic has practical use today. When studying decision impact, especially in anthropology, political history, or survival strategy, Yoruba frameworks teach you to evaluate not just what happened, but what could have happened under a different set of choices. It's a system that, really trains you to think in timelines rather than events. The Igbo story of the mysterious man who appeared during a conflict, speaking of future events then vanishing, represents another recurring African theme, temporal displacement tied to moral correction. Whether literal or metaphorical, these accounts teach that some African societies considered time to be responsive to ethical imbalance. Historians can apply this by examining conflict resolution traditions. Many communities believed that maintaining harmony prevented breaks in time. In survivalist contexts, this kind of thinking aligns with how groups maintain order and continuity without written law. East African stories of disappearing mountains that return on certain days also belong in this conversation. Among Maasai and other Nilotic groups, these locations were associated with spaces where time behaved differently. People who entered such zones were sometimes said to return unchanged while years had passed outside. As a researcher, you can approach such stories by marking geographical anomalies, studying environmental optical effects, and interviewing elders who understand the land's cyclical patterns. These legends often correlate with real geographical features. African mythology does not present time as an unstoppable river. It presents it as terrain. Something that can be entered, shaped, influenced, or revisited under specific circumstances. And this is exactly why it matters to historians, researchers, and survivalist thinkers today. Studying these systems teaches you not to oversimplify reality. It teaches you to study patterns, not just events. It trains you to see knowledge hidden inside stories and to recognize when a story is actually a coded scientific observation. If content like this expands the way you look at time, culture, and ancient knowledge systems, subscribe to the Time Travel YT channel and share this guide with someone who appreciates history that pushes the limits of what we think we know.